Now the rumor is, word on the street is that Nate is going to come back and take on his old rival in the leadership review that is expected to take place in the fall. I believe it's in September. And that is going to be something that is very interesting to watch. You and I talked about this a couple of weeks ago, or maybe last week, that if somebody wants this leadership, she will be gone. And if nobody wants it, she will stay. It's starting to look like someone is going to want it. That's all I'm going to say right now. What do you think, Cody?
So let's go back to election night. She didn't win her seat. I didn't think she was going to resign on that night, and she didn't. But I said she may stay on, but it doesn't give her any credibility. You had said that party status that's not a thing. Like, that's not a benchmark, I think were your words, right? So I think that you are right. And with Nate, he does seem to capture a progressive element of the left that is very powerful. The type of people who will mobilize and get behind the candidate who supports their vision of the province, the country, etc., etc. So, and I take it, there was something written in Polly Corner. You had just mentioned some of what was written. I think she could be in trouble. And I was thinking this week if I could find some semblance of, because some leaders, they have a base of support of people that will be behind them 100%.
Yeah.
A lot of that has to do with members of your caucus, like Pierre Poilievre, for example. He has, 10 to 12 MPs that are diehard Pierre Poilievre supporters, and they will go to the end of the earth to protect them. And I don't see that with Bonnie. I don't see people coming out and unequivocally.
No.
Right. So
Nate has that. So only, it's something interesting. It's something that there are some politicians most politicians are like this. Like, if they're doing well, lots of people are around them and everybody loves them. And if they're not doing well, people just, have other things to do and they don't really care. Some politicians, Nate is one of them, they have diehard supporters. People who are like, they just believe in them so strongly. And they will go through, let's walk through fire together kind of thing. Bonnie does not have that.
And with an element of that, for people who don't know, who haven't run a campaign, been involved in a campaign, the only thing that matters in politics is money, volunteers, and how many votes that you can get, whether it's a leadership race or a general election. And Nate, to his credit, he can do that. He can mobilize those people, right? In a way that Bonnie can't. And even when Bonnie was the mayor of Mississauga, what happened is when Hazel got behind her, that helped. It didn't win her the election, but it helped. And because she was the incumbent, incumbents win like 80 to 90% of the time, especially in municipal politics, just because of name recognition. But Bonnie doesn't have that. Now she has to fight against pretty much everybody else but herself.
It's a different game. You can't take municipal politics and what works in municipal politics and copy paste it to the provincial level. It just doesn't work that way. I was going to say something about, I don't think he even needs to sign up members right now, because I don't think the members expired that he already signed up. This wasn't that long ago.
Oh, okay. But I'm just saying, I'm saying in general, because he's gonna.
What I'm saying is he probably can build on what I have to double check the rules. I've been a little bit out of the game for a couple of years now. Not a couple of years, since,
So just for our listeners at home who don't know how it works, when you run a campaign, you collect data, right? Mm-hmm. So the data is not just people who support you, it's also people who don't support you, right? Yeah. And those are the people that you don't want to knock on the doors of, because you don't want them showing up to vote for other people. But yes, what Noka is saying is correct in the sense that because he still has 100%, he still has the data from when he ran previously, he can use that. And I'm pretty sure that the party will also give all the campaigns a generic set of emails, phone numbers, not just supporters of them. So yeah, I guess you're right. You're right.
And I think he also has his network of organizers throughout Ontario pretty active. And now all he has to do, Nate, if you're listening to this podcast, all you have to do is go back to your data, the information you already have, which I'm pretty sure, I don't think they've expired yet. I have to double check.
Mm.
Double check the party's constitution. I could be wrong. But go back and reconfirm all these supporters that you already had, right? Because they're more happy with Nate now than they were back then, because he's done better after he lost that leadership. Sometimes you lose and you grow from it, right? You become better. And people got to see him as a cabinet minister, a federal cabinet minister, even though it was just for a few short months. It's good. So reconfirm the support that you already have. And he lost by very, very little, right? He didn't lose by much. And then he has to approach people who are dissatisfied or disgruntled, who may have supported her in the leadership race. He might know one or two, but approach those people, try to get them on board, because they're probably looking for an alternative given the results of the election and just how her leadership has played out. And then talk to his buddy, who was his running mate towards the end, Yasser. They had this little deal going on between them. I'm sure they're still friends. They're both on Parliament Hill together. And talk to him and solidify his supporters and try to get his organizers on board with Nate. And he does that. He walks through this leadership review, wins the thing. I can't imagine that he will be heavily contested for the leadership after that, because that's going to be very, very clear that this guy's a real organizer and no one's going to want to mess with him.
Well, who else would there be, right? There's not like I no offense, maybe offense. I don't really give a shit. For honestly, even like Stephen Del Duca, when he ran, the slate of candidates were not that great. There's not that much charisma. Even during Bonnie's race, she benefited largely from just not having, other than Nate, not having a strong opposition at all. Like, I can't think of a time where the Ontario Liberal Party, since, I don't know, maybe since I've been alive, have come up with a charismatic person who can capture an audience, right?
The talent pool is shallow. You're very right.
Yes, there you go.
The talent pool is very shallow.
You took the words right out of my mouth.
Right. So, he could, build this plane right in the sky and it might work out really well in his favor, right? He might take this, this not getting into cabinet as an opportunity to regroup, refocus on his original goal, which I think from an organization perspective is within grasp. It's within reach. Like, this is not that hard. If he wants it. If he doesn't want it, that's a different story. If he's kind of like, I'm done, I don't want to do this anymore, it's understandable.
And I think that he would make a very good argument to NDP Liberal switchers. I think that there will be a lot of NDP seats that would be in play in the next election, whenever that might be. I think that he would put a lot of NDP seats in play. And then at that point, you're not just looking at party status, you're actually looking at, leader of the opposition, right?
Yeah, potentially. But I also think that he will have difficulty going up against Doug Ford if he doesn't move to the center himself. I like.
Oh yeah, we're not even there
yet.
So
we're not there. We're not there. But like, I like Nate, but there's certain things like, him, consistently supporting and defending the carbon tax after it's been killed. Like, we got to move on from that. We got to move to the center a little bit, because he has to appeal to a broader audience. The thing about Nate is that the people that love him, love him, love him, right? But the people who don't really care for that, who aren't really like that passionate about the stuff that he's very passionate about, won't really give him a chance. So that's where he has to grow. That's his challenge. But you're right, we're too far from that. Nate, if you're listening, step by step. But, I think, and I'm not trying to egg anybody on. I know people are going to be like, oh, Noka is just...
Egg them on. Egg them on.
What Ontario Liberals are going to say after watching this segment, okay? No, because egging people on. What is she doing? Why is she doing this? I get it. I'm saying things from an objective point of view. Nate has a very, very good chance of, really focusing on this leadership review, making it happen, and then basically, walking right through the leadership race and getting the prize that he wanted to get in the first place a couple of years ago. That's all I'm saying. I'm not egging anybody on. I'm not telling anybody to do anything. Best of luck, Nate, if you decide to do it. If you don't, if you prefer to just hang out and do whatever you do, enjoy your life. Yeah, I think, it's going to be certainly very interesting for sure. Well, thank you very much for joining us, everyone. Again, I'm not egging anybody on to do anything, but we do
You
love.
keep saying that. You keep saying you're not egging anybody on.
But it
And you're
sounds
trying
like
to
I am.
convince people that you're not egging people on. So,
Yeah.
yeah.
Okay. Maybe I am a little bit.
Yeah. Okay,
Okay.
commercial break. Oh, wait, we don't have any commercials.
We don't have commercials. Well, thank you very much for listening to another episode of the Radical Center.